So I'm trying to find out if we're actually on right now, because I don't see anything here on this computer. So if you're watching, congratulations, you can find it, because I can't. And we'll begin going through your questions here in just a moment, as soon as I can find them. So, but yeah, Hurricane Ian. Okay, we are live on YouTube. So I got that much now. So hopefully it'll pop up on Facebook here in just a moment, and we will get going. So let's talk about what's going on right now. This is the loop of the storm. Obviously, like I said, not a great situation down in Florida. The center of it moving closer to the shore. If I zoom it in here, you can very clearly see the eye. This is right in here. This is the eye. So the most intense part of the storm is going to be around the eye, right in there, in the eye wall. You can see the deepening of the reds in there. And this is Sanibel Island right here. This is Sanibel. There's Fort Myers. Charlotte Harbor is up in here. This is going to be where the strongest storm surge is. That is happening right now. Storm surge down there. I believe the surge amounts, we just got an update in on that. Let's see. The update on the storm surge was to expect 12 to 18 feet from Englewood to Bonita Beach and in Charlotte Harbor. So that is what is going on down there. Let me pull up what's the radar, the satellite, all of that. Here's what I was showing this morning here on the news. This is what's going on right now. So like I was alluding to, this is the eye wall right in here. This is the most intense part of the storm. There's Sanibel, there's Fort Myers, Naples is over here. Now, one thing I want to point out is look how big this eye wall is. That's 35 miles that way and 40-ish, 40 miles that way. That is not an insignificant eye wall. That is very big, very wide. Which means more people are going to feel the eye, essentially, because, the way this works is if it moves onshore like this, right, all of these people, well, that's probably not the right motion, hold on, like this, all of these people right in here, so Fort Myers, Sanibel, Charlotte Harbor, all of them get an eye wall. All of them feel the Category 4 status, potentially Category 5. We're only a few miles per hour short of that. So that is the situation down there in Florida. Let's talk about the cone. So a lot of confusion is not the right way to phrase it, but here in central Georgia, we were in the cone, now we're not in the cone. That does not mean we are in the clear from impacts. The cone tracks the center of the storm. The cone does not track the impacts. We are still looking at the likelihood of wind gusts 45 plus miles per hour that will down trees, that will down power lines, and that is going to happen beginning tomorrow here in central Georgia. We are going to be looking at that for several hours, potentially 12 to 36 hours, somewhere in there, and it's not going to be good. So these are the forecasted wind gusts. This starts tomorrow. I play this forward. You see we get like 36, 34. There's 36. That's Friday at 10 a.m. We're still going to have strong wind gusts tomorrow, 35. Anytime you get these purplish colors, let me flip this back over to the camera. Anytime you get these purplish colors right in here, that's going to be your strongest wind gusts. Those are going to be 40 plus miles per hour. And this is before it starts raining here in central Georgia. This is going to be, standing outside, it's sunny and the wind's blowing type stuff. And the thing that's concerning for us is that, so this is Thursday at 1 p.m. We play this forward, it continues, it doesn't go away until Saturday at 8 a.m. So that's 36 hours there of wind gusts that could potentially, down trees, down power lines. Whenever we have, say, a summertime storm and it has 40-mile-an-hour winds with it, that happens one or two times. This scenario, you're going to get this happening repeatedly for hours on end, which is the concern for the down trees, the down power lines. It's something the National Weather Service started talking about yesterday, something that we are beginning to hit today, and it could start as soon as tomorrow here in central Georgia. So let's talk about the timing. Let's run through the European and the GFS models. European begins the rain overnight Thursday into Friday here in our far southeastern counties, right in here. This would be Telfair, Wheeler, Lawrence, Treutlen, Washington. Run this forward a little bit. Notice it expands. Here's Friday afternoon. This is going to be raining, generally speaking, east of 75, dry west of 75, and then rain begins to expand almost across the entire area by the time we get to Friday night. But what I want to point out is, so with the center of the storm going up the Savannah River, essentially up the Georgia-South Carolina state line, the gradient of the end of the rain is going to be fairly tight. So it could be pouring in Houston County, but dry on the other end of Macon County, and it could be that way for several hours. So that's going to drive our rainfall totals is where the edge of that storm sits up. Regardless, I still think the wind is the bigger concern more so than the rain to begin with. So that is where things stand now on the Euro model. Rain hangs around through Saturday evening before it begins to pull out. The GFS, play this forward. Rain beginning in our far southeastern counties Friday mid-morning, 8, 9 o'clock. So later than what the European is showing. Play this forward just a bit more. There we go into Saturday, expanding across the whole area. There's Saturday morning, Saturday evening moving out. But that's just the rain. The wind is going to be Thursday to Saturday. That is how that's going to set up. And I was talking earlier this morning, I don't like to compare storms, usually. But I think it's beneficial to talk about the fact that this is going to be the same setup as Hurricane Irma. From when Irma made landfall, came through central Georgia as a tropical depression. It's going to be something similar to that, I think, in terms of impacts. We're looking at the high to the north, tropical storm coming in from the south. I think the difference is Irma posed a tornado threat. We didn't have any tornadoes, but it posed the threat. I don't think we're going to have that with Ian. But that is how things are setting up there. So let me see if the YouTube questions have been enabled. See if we can answer any of these. I don't think so. So that's pretty much where things stand now with Ian here in central Georgia. Obviously, as we head through the morning hours, we're going to be watching Florida closely. You know, it's not every day you get hurricane warnings, this far inland. When we drill this down, I mean, this is Naples, south of Naples, so like the Everglades, up through Port Charlotte, Fort Myers. That's where the center of the storm is going to come through. There's Sarasota, there's Tampa, Lakeland, Orlando, Disney World closed today and tomorrow, almost to the Atlantic coast. You know, if they had included Brevard County there, we would be to the Atlantic coast. That would be the whole peninsula of Florida, but they haven't done that. These are tropical storm warnings along the Atlantic coast here from Miami up towards Fort Lauderdale, West Palm, Fort Pierce, Melbourne, Cape Canaveral, St. Augustine, as you get up towards Palm Coast, Daytona, and Jacksonville. As you get up towards the Georgia coast, right, there's Jacksonville, Amelia Island, Fernandina, Jekyll, St. Simons, Brunswick, Savannah, everywhere. And in fact, the Georgia coast has the threat of storm surge up to 3 to 6 feet. I was texting with somebody a few minutes ago. They spent the night in Dublin last night. They were coming from Atlanta, and they were on the way to St. Mary's and made plans to go to Jekyll instead, and have now called it all off because, yeah, you don't want to be down there in 3 to 6 feet of storm surge there along the Georgia coast. And then the warnings keep going. They go as far north as north of Charleston, South Carolina, because the storm, the plan is for the storm is to come out here and do one of those in the Atlantic, right? That's what the Hurricane Center has in terms of a path, which for us, you know, puts us on the better side of the storm. You know, we say the dirty side, right? You know, for the right front quadrant, anytime you are on that east side, it's not great in terms of the impacts, but that implies that the other side is good, and it's not. You know, the entire storm is bad. It's the better side to be on, but it's not necessarily the clean side, if that makes sense. There's not much clean about it, to put it mildly. So as we head into the next few days, just a reminder, if you follow my social media channels, you will get constant updates. We're posting around the clock. It's at AForbesWX, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram. That is the place to go, especially Twitter. I think Twitter we post on the most. Facebook, I've got a long update on where I have everything written out. That's a great resource to share to your friends on Facebook, because I feel like this morning we had this sense in central Georgia that since we moved out of the cone, we're not going to feel the impacts, where it's actually the opposite. I think our confidence in impacts have gone up, certainly compared to yesterday morning in terms of the wind. And we want to make sure people are prepared, not scared. That's the line. We want to make sure you're prepared for the wind, prepared for possible power outages here in central Georgia. It's not something that we're just making up to get you to watch. It's a real threat that is going to be around here in central Georgia tomorrow morning, beginning tomorrow morning, through the day tomorrow, into Friday, into Saturday. So that's what we're looking at. Getting a word that the YouTube comments are on, so let's see if I can hop over here and see if we can ask. Yes, so we got a chat going now. What are some things we can do to prepare for impacts here in central Georgia? Great question. So usually that's something the news team covers, but what I do know is having an emergency kit ready. Be prepared to not have power. That's the gist of things. I think we've gone through enough here in central Georgia where we lose power that you kind of know what you need to do. So think about freezers, luckily air conditioning is not going to be too much of a worry because the weather is going to be nice after this, talking about highs in the 70s. If you have any kind of medical need that requires power, you have a backup for that. Obviously, you don't want to run a generator in a house. Steve saying he's in South Fort Myers, winds are picking up intensity. Yes, they are, and that is because the eye wall is about to be coming through that area. Let's see if I can pull up the radar again. Yeah, so South Fort Myers, you're going to be in for a ride there between Fort Myers and Naples. So this is the eye wall right here. This is where the 155 mile an hour sustained winds are. That is going to be the strongest part of that storm. What is the current latitude? Asks Steve. Well, so the latitude, it's 26.1 north, 82.7 west. 26.1 north, 82.7 west. Moving north-northeast at 10. Pressure is down to 937, which is very strong. Max sustained winds at 155. For perspective, for context on the forecast, we were the National Hurricane Center forecasted 140 mile an hour storm at this point. We are 15 miles per hour above that, and we still have time for it to strengthen. Could we see 160? Sure. In fact, that'd be something interesting to look at. Let me see. Actually, I don't have that availability on this. I do, maybe. Let's see. I didn't think I had this radar, but I do. Let's see if we can query some of these winds. See how fast we can get. It's not. I used to working with wind speeds much lower than 155, so I'm having trouble remembering which colors to look for. Now, this radar is very far away. It does look like it's maybe the Orlando or Tampa radar. Oh, it's Melbourne. It's very far away. We're not going to get good data out of that. But just anecdotally, down here in Fort Myers, picking up on 70 mile an hour winds already. Have seen a number of tornado warnings down here as well. Obviously, a tornado watch, is in effect down here. Let me see if I can pop that on. There, that's the radar. Obviously, there's the eye. There's the tornado watch, right? So that's going to be as the storm crosses, right like that. You get the dirty side right there, and that's what's prompting the tornado watch. Let's see what else we got. How is Miami? Some rain there. I think they had some severe weather recently as well. How bad will Orlando be hit? So I'm not an expert on Orlando, but I have seen the Orlando meteorologist, a few people down there who I know, compare this to Charlie. Orlando is in a hurricane warning. Not going to be good down there. Widespread power outages, widespread damage. Mile from the beach looks like it'll go north of, yes, the river. It does look like that, hopefully. But that kind of what I was alluding to earlier, the eye wall is so big that where the exact center goes, and Fort Myers makes no difference. You're getting a Category 4 eye wall. There's no way around it at this point. Nothing to worry about in central Georgia. No. We have winds to worry about in central Georgia. We have wind gusts of 45 miles per hour for 36 hours. We are looking at power outages here in central Georgia. Do hurricanes drop intensity after crossing the coast? Are we still expecting tropical storm force in central Florida? No, we are expecting hurricane force winds in central Florida. Let me show you this, the hurricane warnings that are in effect down there. So anywhere in this pink right here, expect hurricane conditions, which includes, I assume when you say central Florida, you mean the Orlando area and south. Hurricane warning down there, hurricane conditions expected. Tell me what Central Georgia is to you. Central Georgia is the area that we cover here at 13 WMAZ. It goes, say, Forsyth down to Cordele, Taylor, Macon counties over to Hancock, Washington, Truitland. These are the Central Georgia impacts. Biggest threat, winds 45 miles per hour Thursday and Friday. Rain, not too concerned about it, not too concerned about flooding because we're going to be on the edge of the storm, but we are looking at possible power outages from how long the wind is going to last and the wet soil around. That is our main concern here. How will Daytona and Ormond Beach be impacted? And what is the outlook for Jacksonville? So tropical storm force conditions up and down the Atlantic coast. Storm surge will be an issue down there as well. I believe the storm surge forecast for that area is 3 to 5 feet. Same as coastal Georgia, yeah, so 3 to 5 feet, Daytona, Jacksonville, Georgia coast, all of that. It has not been upgraded to a Cat 5 yet. How well defined do you consider the eye wall of this hurricane? Very, very well defined. After a hurricane hits lands and weekends, travels back, can it strengthen again? Yes, it is possible to get minor strengthening. If it does go back over the Atlantic, it won't be long enough for significant strengthening. Any real concerns for Virginia? Up in Virginia, potentially flooding in the mountains if the moisture is able to get up there. Cape Coral, look for hurricane conditions. Irma was so much more intense, a lot more rain. Well, Steve, the eye wall is not there yet. The eye wall will be there in about an hour. That's why. When is the next official update? That will come at 11. We will get a position update at 10. We will get track update at 11. Sarasota, it should be just north of the eye wall, probably Cat 2 conditions, right? So Sarasota's here. Yeah, so I'd say you're in the worst part, but the worst part is going to last for a little while. That's what I'd say about Sarasota. Do you expect it to strengthen any more with the dry winds coming in? Yes, I expect it to continue strengthening until the eye is completely on shore. Let's see, did we get an update on this? It is not a Cat 5 yet. Whoever commented that, it's not a Cat 5, it's Cat 4. Winds of 155 miles per hour, it's 2 miles per hour shy of a Cat 5. Myrtle Beach, maybe some coastal flooding. Charlotte, North Carolina, looking at some rain and wind. What about Sebring, Florida? You're in a hurricane warning there. Tropical storm warning in Titusville, and so forth. Okay, so with that, it brings me to 9:26. I've got to run into a meeting here at 9:30 so we can talk about this with our news team. Any information you need, we've got an entire updated posted on 13wmaz.com. You can download the 13WMAZ app so you can look at our web stories there. You can stream 13WMAZ Plus there. We are going to keep you updated here. We're based out of Central Georgia, but we've got updates for the entire storm throughout that web story. So thank you for joining us. And again, don't forget, you can follow the latest with me here on social media. Just look for Forbes WX on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, all of it. And I'll be posting updates as much as I can. Thank you for watching. We'll have another update coming up here at 11.